Hello, you are listening to the Natural Healing Show for UK Health Radio. I'm your host, Catherine Carrigan, medical intuitive healer, Amazon #1 best-selling author. You can find out more about me and my work at catherinecarrigan.com and unlimitedenergynow.com. While you're there, definitely sign up for my newsletter so you can learn about how to heal yourself naturally. And we're listening to this show, the Natural Healing Show for UK Health Radio. And UK Health Radio is available all over the world on wherever podcasts are available, all your major podcast platforms. Now, I've got a super special show for you today. You're going to be really excited about this one. Typically, we talk about how to heal yourself naturally. However, many of our listeners are healers themselves. We're going to be talking with Rasheed Ogunlaru, a coach, speaker, and author of the wonderful book Soul Trader, about how you can run a successful healing business. You can find out more about Rasheed Ogunlaru at his wonderful work at his website, rasaru.com. And I'm going to spell that for you, rasaru.com. Welcome, Rasheed Ogunlaru.
Oh, it's such a delight to be here, Catherine. How are you doing today? Lovely to see you and to speak to you.
Well, I'm excited about this show as well because I'm 64. I've had my own business for 30 years. And again, I don't usually talk about my net worth, but I'll just say I have zero debt. I own my house, I own my car. I love what I do. I have balance in my life. I can help people and stay healthy myself without overworking. And yet many people who want to become healers, who want to work in natural healing, they spend tens of thousands of dollars studying, and then they get this information and they can't make a living. So Rasheed Ogunlaru, you wrote the wonderful book Soul Trader. What is a soul trader?
Yeah, thank you so much. Well, I wrote the book Soul Trader because I really wanted to write. I really get it, because my first background was I worked in media, then I was a singer and performer, and then I was started this business of being a coach. And many of the people I met were people who were healers. And I'd been on my own spiritual journey. And one of the things that really struck me was that so many of these incredibly talented healers, exactly as you described, really struggled with making a living from what they own. And I was saying that in order for the healing in the world we want to see to take place, first of all, the healers need to take their place in the world. And first of all, often they need to do their own healing. That's what I guess the Natural Healing Show is about, to make sure that we do that healing naturally. But then if we are healers, we need to be out there in the world. And so many of us want to run our own authentic business. So that was really the background to Soul Trader. And it was originally called Soul Trader, Building Your Business by Heart. How could you, from the heart, build an authentic business using the values that you yourself live by? So the book Soul Trader is exactly about that. And the teachers, the leaders, and the healers are the people who are dearest to my heart, and seeing them do well, seeing them thrive, and seeing them doing their work in the world was the inspiration behind the book.
Yeah. So before we got on the air, I was telling Rasheed Ogunlaru, I have lots of clients who are healers and coaches themselves. And recently I was speaking to a lady in Europe who has similar work to me. She's a medical intuitive healer. And I said, well, who would you study medical intuition from? And I went to this lady's website and it said, oh, I have clients who are millionaires. And I just laughed. I'm a millionaire. I'm a single woman. I'm not married. I didn't inherit this. Nobody handed it to me. I created it myself. I didn't inherit it. I didn't marry it. I did it. And I did it all by doing the inner work on business, which a lot of people don't do. So I was laughing. She's like, I have clients who are millionaires. I'm like, I have clients who are billionaires. And so it's the inner work, as always. So Rasheed Ogunlaru, coach, speaker, author of Soul Trader. What do you feel are the 7 key areas you feel a person should master to be successful in business?
Yeah, such a good question. And Catherine, your story breaks that myth that if we are healers, if we're intuitives and so on, that we can't make a good living from what we do, we can. So the 7 principles of Soul Trader are: 1, clarity. Who are you? Why are you here? That's number 1. Who are you? What's your mission? What's your purpose? Why are you here on this planet? What is it you're wanting to do in business? What would success look like for you? Clarity is so important. I have a saying that unless you're clear, nothing's clear. So clarity is number 1. Once we're clear, then the second principle is actually customers, because it's all very well, so what? Rasheed Ogunlaru is clear. My customers don't care about Rasheed Ogunlaru. They're concerned about their world, what's going on for them. So the second principle is our customers. Who are they? What's their pain? What's their problems? How do they see the world? Because we need to be able to speak in their language, not ours. So I think that's incredibly important for the healer and for anyone. So that's the second principle, the customers. And those 2 principles, the others build on. The next is courage, because it takes courage to sometimes follow your heart. You were saying just a bit there about, Catherine, your story. And I bet you took so much courage, the courage of being authentically ourselves. And that courage will look completely different to each and every one of us on that journey. And it may well be that we might come back to some of these themes. Courage. Sometimes it's very practically me going out there. Sometimes it's the courage of me trusting my own instinct. For me, it was an inner thing of trusting. You talked about the inner work before, trusting. So that's third. Next is cooperation. Even if we're Soul Trader, S-O-L-E, and the book is Soul Trader, S-O-U-L, even if there's just one of us, we need help. We need help. Now, that help might just be the accountant, the person who helps you with graphic design, web design, but it's about that team. Now, your customers will be part of that team. It's about that. It's the same thing in athletics. You might be it might be a 100-meter runner. They've still got a team. Doesn't necessarily mean you're paying them, but those people, who is it that you can turn to? And actually, that can be very powerful for the creative, for the healer, and so on, to build a very powerful team of peers and other people and people of all backgrounds who can help you along that journey. Next up is conversations. And conversations is so important, Catherine. This 5th principle is really important, because I have a saying that customer conversion, which is what we want, is dependent on the right customer conversation. Every opportunity that's happened in my entire life has come from conversations, but very often we don't have them, or we don't trust ourselves to have them. Conversations is magic. Next is creativity. Guess what? Many of us who are entrepreneurs, we are creatives. I can see those beautiful background, the covers of your books there. We are creative. One minute there's no business, next minute there is a business. So we need to trust creativity. And for many healers, they might also be intuitives, also like you. So creativity for me is about the right blend of space, structure, and serendipity. The 7th chapter is compassion. Loving you, loving what you do, and loving your customers also. And I sneaked in a final 8th one, a plus one. And that is change, because everything's going to change. You're going to change. The industry is going to change. The world's changed multiple times since you and I have been in business, right? Over the decades you and I have been in business. Change. And we are also about being the change maker. So those are the principles, the 7+1 Soul Trader principles.
I just love this. I really love that you came up with this, because it's a really great way to get not just your head, but also your heart wrapped around. Because I also feel that most people who go into natural healing, they come into it with true passion because they want to save the world. When I wrote my very first book was about how to heal depression without drugs. It's now Banish the Blues Now. And I remember when I wrote that book, which took me 3 years, I thought, if I help even one person overcome what I did, then it'll be worth it. And now I've helped countless people. And so we're very heart-centered people, we're soul-centered people. We want to live our business and our lives from our heart and soul. But so I love those principles. Now, how can we identify our strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats? What you refer to in the book as our SWOT. Yeah,
this is really important. It's a part of that clarity piece. Many people, I have a saying, know your magic, trust your magic, use your magic, and know that you're a manifestation of your magic. Many people are healers, don't see their magic. So many of the people I coach, Catherine is a life coach, leadership coach. I've coached I've coached individually hundreds of people, thousands and thousands through my workshops, talks, and all the rest of it. Very often that people don't see their own magic. So really starting with strengths means we need to know what my gifts, what am I really good at? What am I really good at? And we come to the table with so many gifts. Now, that might include their one's healing gifts. They might also include the things that somebody did prior to being a healer. They might be a great administrator, a great teacher, great, highly organized. We bring all of these gifts. So we've got to be very honest and sit down and really reflect, what are all my strengths? What all the qualities I bring? If you don't know, ask your friends, family, loved ones, people who will give you good, positive feedback so that you know, because we need to play to our strengths. There's no point trying to turn a golfer into a decathlete. So we've got to know what our strengths are and play to our strengths. The next is when I talk about the weaknesses, for me, the weaknesses, okay, what are the areas that aren't my strengths? There'll be some areas that I think, particularly when it comes to business, what are the things that aren't naturally my strength? For me, I knew that lots of some of the financially bits, because the tax and thingy, so I thought there's no point. So I knew what the first thing I needed to hire was an accountant. So what are the areas that you're not so strong in? Being very honest, or the things that don't really resonate with you or that you don't enjoy, so you can play to your strengths, right? What are the opportunities? Now, the opportunities will start with where's the low-hanging fruit? And often there's lots. All of the people who it is, you know, your friends, your contacts, those people are going to be the first ambassadors. And many of us, guess what? When we're a sole trader, when we're running a professional service, most of the business will come from our contacts, our colleagues, our network, and going out there networking. So that's really, really important. Where is the low-hanging fruit? Where are those opportunities? You might think, oh my goodness, so for me, in my case, for example, some of the people I knew through singing were some of my first coaching clients. My former boss when I worked in media, these were opportunities, and they opened other doors and so on. But we need to be open. I want to say one other thing about opportunities very briefly. I have another saying which says, the magic of life happens when we stop expecting life to present us with opportunities and we start presenting opportunities to life. So sometimes it's about us just showing up in the world saying, here I am, like you've done, Catherine, in your journey. And then the threats, and there'll be many, what are the fire, theft and flood, non-payer, poor review, there'll be many. That will just help us to get a good perspective. So that's SWOT analysis, but we need to be kind to ourselves, play to our strengths. Often if you play to your strengths, many of the weaker areas, you may not even need to concern yourself too much. You can surround yourself with people who've got the other strengths that aren't your natural strength.
Right. I just love that because, like you said, with weaknesses, for example, I do finance, but I have a brilliant accountant and a brilliant bookkeeper. I love them. And I listen to what they recommend. I have investment advisors at Morgan Stanley. So you simply find people who are better than you at the areas that you're not that great in, right?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And on that note, it's such a powerful one. I'm sure we'll come back to it later, but exactly as you said, collect talented, outstanding people. When I first went into business, I thought all the people I'd meet would become clients because I was life coach, business coach, and what you name it. Then I was meeting all these people, good, bad, indifferent, doing different things, graphic design, this. Collect them. You never know when you'll need them, when your colleagues, clients might need them, and then all roads lead back to Rome. Hence, cooperation and conversations later on. So you're absolutely right. Surround yourself with really good people, and they'll help you, and they will support you.
Yes. And, for all of our intuitive listeners, like what I do is I use my intuition to find the best people. So for example, when I found my investment advisors at Morgan Stanley, they're probably in the top 5% in Atlanta and in the top 5% in the world, right?
You're so right. You're so right. And on that note, Chapter 1, which is all about clarity, what it does, it takes you through a process where you identify what your values are. So you're absolutely clear, because many of the problems happen in business is when we are not in alignment, just like with the healing, we're not in alignment with our values. You need to pick the people to work with you and the customers who align with your values. And then there's far more flow in terms of business. You're so right there.
So which brings me to my follow-up question, which is, why is it critical, in your opinion, Rasheed Ogunlaru, that we develop clarity about our values in life, business, and relationships?
Yeah. So those values are everything. It's not just one that when we were employed that the organizations talk about values. It's about knowing who you are, what's really dear to you. And there's just a really simple exercise that you can do. I talk about in the book, but you don't need the book to do it. You could just get a piece of paper and write down what's most important to you in life, business, relationships. I get people to write 6 to 10 individual words and then put them in number order and be very clear. What does each word mean? What does health mean? What would it look like? What would it be like? For example, you've got that word health in your health. Look, be very, very clear. It's a bit like going out with a very clear shopping list. So you're absolutely clear on your values. Now, very often when you're clear on what your values, they will give you an order of events of how you need to go about things. I'll never forget, many, many years ago, I coached a lady. She was a healer. She ran a yoga-related business, but she'd got burned out. And I got her to do this exercise. In fact, I think she attended one of my workshops. I think she attended the Soul Trader workshop. Anyway, and she, what was really interesting, I got her to do this, and her values in life included the word support, fun, health, and enjoyment. When she put them in order, she put health, support, enjoyment, and fun. And she explained, oh, Rasheed, firstly, if I focus on my health again, then I can go out and get the support I need. Then it will be enjoyable, and then it'll be fun again. There was an order of events. And it will also help you spot which people have the values that are really important to you in relationships. I've had people running successful businesses, but their business partners, the values were bereft. So we'll come on to courage later, but there's a courage bit that's really important, to trust that. As you said, you trust your instinct. If we're healers, so much of it is intuitive. We've got to apply the same things to our business. Trust it, and it will serve you. The right people will come through the door, and they will support you, and they will. But so many reasons why business goes wrong is that we're trying to find clients who don't want what we do. We're trying to persuade people who don't want what we do, and the people who do what we do, but we're not approaching them. It's crazy.
Right. And I'll just speak for myself for a moment. My top values, not necessarily in any order, are health, wealth, intuition, peace, and happiness. Now, I use those values to evaluate how I do everything, how I do my business, how I do my personal life and my relationships. So for example, I know so many coaches, and they think the answer is to have these huge programs and funnel lots and lots of people through, and then they're trying to get more, charge more, cram more. Well, to me, that's not peace, right?
And what you're saying there is so powerful, Catherine, because take your values, which are profound ones. I don't know what the order of them, but let's imagine, I would pretty much guess that obviously health's going to be near the top. It's part of your life's work.
Yeah.
Let's say, and my guess is that then intuition and peace are pretty high up there, would be my guess, that those ones would be next. Yeah. I can tell intuitively that you use them. You make sure that you're at peace and that your intuition can absolutely flow, and you run your business from there. So for the person who's a healer, but also an intuitive, for example, profound magic happens, because then we're still enough to listen vibrationally, to do our work, to draw the right people in, to know when to stop working, what places to go to. It's very profound. But I think the thing is that I think if we were a healer, it's very similar to being like a creative, because I used to be a singer, songwriter as well. And I do consider myself very much a healer from the healing school. What's really important is that the creative, like the healer, the way in which we'll go about business will be different to other people. So it's got to be heart-led. If we try and make sure that it's not heart-led, it's not going to work. But we need to trust, but we need to have both head and heart. So the head wants to know, how am I going to make money? How am I going to do this? How am I going to do that? But we've got to let the heart have its say, so that we're clear on the values of the heart. So the head will then do its work to plan, prepare, to keep us safe as best we can. And that's what we're talking about here. So I'm so glad you brought those values in, because when we're really clear, I have a saying, again, until you're clear, nothing's clear. But once you're clear, everything is clear. You know why you're here. And also it means you can begin to espouse that. Very often, I meet so many people who are healers and so on. The first thing I do is I go to their website. You know, you're just reading out my website. You shared your website. I go to people's website. And you know what, Catherine? So often they're absent without leave. They're not there. Their story, their magic, it's not there. How are people going to find you if you're not sharing that magic of why you do what you do? That's the reason why people will pick Catherine. That's why they will listen to the person who's listening to this right now. So it's really important for us to trust these very profound gifts we have, in the same way that we do when we're healing. So much of when we're healing, it's it's what I call it, the invisible intangible. So much of it is down to that, but we've got to trust it in business too, because it will serve us deeply.
And with that, and I know we're all hanging on every word that Rasheed Ogunlaru is sharing with us about how to run a successful healing business. Let's take a break and listen to a message from one of our commercial sponsors here at UK Health Radio, and we'll be right back. So Rasheed Ogunlaru, coach, speaker, author. I love that you call your book Soul Trader, because again, many people who are holistic healers, they started out in some other field, and yet they got burned out because they weren't living according to their heart and soul. I remember when I wrote my second book, What is Healing? I talked about how I can evaluate how I call how much love is in it, right? So at the time, I told the story of my gardener and how he could put the pansies in the ground and they just flourish because he puts so much love into what he does. And so many people get turned off by conventional business because it's all about the money. It's all about, the metrics, and it's not about how much love is in it. What is the difference in your mind between a business with heart in it and a business without heart intentions?
I think it's one of those things you can really feel, isn't it? We know when we've been treated with kindness and with respect. Might be we're going to a restaurant, it might be we're going to a healer, a therapist, it could be that we're going anywhere. We just know, we just feel good. We feel as though we've been honored and we've been respected. There's just that feeling there in the heart. We know it when we see it, and we know when it's not there. It's a bit like when we listen to a piece of music and when we're just moved, or a performance just moves us to tears. As healers, we've got to just trust that and remain aligned to it. Because when we were talking before about clarity, the clarity, and when we know who we are, what our strengths are, what our qualities, what our calling is, all of that becomes, it ties with the passion. That passion, all of that stuff is the fuel, and it means that we'll keep going despite the ups, the downs, and so on. And it means that we'll show up always with heart, with kindness, and with compassion. So for me, it's about just trusting. And you talked before about listening. It's about really, I think a lot of that has to do with also just listening, so that you're able to build the beautiful thing about being your own boss is that each and every business, you might be one of 1,000 massage therapists, Reiki therapists, this, that, but there's only one you. And how the song of life is sung through you will be so unique. But we need to have the courage to trust that and to express that and show up as that. And the invitation from that is also then to ensure that we're treating others with kindness. And that's why I loved, again, your values, because I think that really does require us being at peace with ourselves in order to do that, because there'll be all of the hurly-burly, all the busyness of business. You've got to just trust and be still, all of the things that you might be saying to your clients as a healer, right? In order to also ensure that you're able to show up with that vibration in your business. So it's about what we're talking about is running our business in the same way that we do our healing within the business in many ways, by trusting, listening, showing up with kindness and care and with good intention. But that good intention will also include the very logical sides. Okay, here's where I am. Here's the amount of money I need to make. Here are the kind of clients I'm wanting. I'm being honest and authentic about that to allow that stuff in, right? Because we've got to be open to that also.
So you made several excellent points. And one of the things that I'm always talking about here at the Natural Healing Show is that all illness, all disease is slowed down vibration. And a great example of that is when you have a cold. When you have a cold, you sit on the couch, you can hardly move, you blow your nose. It's a big effort to go make chicken soup, right? Or if you go into a nursing home, it's super slowed down vibration. All healing happens by raising your vibration. So one of the things that we know from natural healing is that the vibration of your heart, your EKG, is about 30 times more powerful than your brain waves, right? And here at the Natural Healing Show, I interview all kinds of people. I interview many brilliant, most of my clients, my interviewees are brilliant people. Yet there's some people, there's so much in their head that people don't understand them, right? And so when we come from our heart, then people can understand us. We can relate to people. They can relate to us. They feel understood, right? So, and another thing to understand from a business point of view is there's a great author, Stuart Wilde. He said, if you don't remember anything else that I say, remember this: raise your vibe, and I'm paraphrasing, raise your vibration, and when people show up, charge them. Raise your vibration, and when people show up, charge them. So if I'm not happy, if I'm not at peace, if I can't access my intuition, I can't do my business, right? So, but when we take care of our own vibration, and then we show up, and then we can do excellent work, and then we have unlimited business, right?
Yeah,
unlimited
that's so true. I mean, what you're saying there, Catherine, is really profound. And the compassion chapter is all about that. It's about a number of things. It's about the self-love, because I think as healers, we've also got to make sure we begin there. It's about loving you, it's loving what you do, and it's loving others too. It becomes a circle. That self-love, that self-kindness, showing up always with love. And it will mean that when you do, people, it's not going to be a choice whether they're going to come to your business or the next business. They're going to be drawn to you every single time. It's only going to be you they're interested in doing business with, because of that authenticity, because of that vibration that you talked about, and being in the world. So often we get caught up in a game whereby, oh no, if only this will happen, if only that. I was saying that your job is to do your job, by which I mean your life's work. Your job is to do your job with all your heart, but to the best of your ability. Life will go its own merry way, at its own merry pace. But if you do, you and life will be the better for you being here. In other words, my job is to show up and sing my song. If I show up and I sing my song, magic will happen. And within that, as you said, to know my worth and to know that how people respond is in currency. So many, of course, many healers, they will wrestle with money, and all of that stuff. It's about knowing that that just happens to be the currency in which they give out from the heart, and through their healing, people give back through money, and that's just the dance. That's how the dance works out.
Yeah, and I have an entire manual on clearing money issues, which is so critical, right? And there's, how you think about money, how your family thinks about money, how your culture thinks about money. So there's a lot, we need to get out of survival mode if we're going to really thrive as healers, right? Now, I want to make a personal comment, because I'm as much of a sap. I'm as big of a sap as they come. I was joking with a friend of mine this weekend who happened to be another healer. I said, I need to write a book about how to be meaner. Because I really did start this business because I wanted to change the world, right? And there's a balance, I feel, in somewhere. So I have to tell this story. So years ago, I had a client, and I would run around just telling everybody I love them, because that's actually where I come from. And I even finished, business emails, love Catherine. And anyway, so one day, one of my clients, she said, well, my husband wants to make an appointment with you. And I said, okay. Well, he was a CEO, retired CEO. He came in, of course, he didn't pay me, and he fired me. And he said to me, it's not professional to tell your clients that you love them. It was really kind of shocking to me. And it was shocking because I had really helped his wife. She was a former triathlete, and she had horrific foot pain and could hardly walk when I started working with her. But he fired me because I would go around and tell everybody I loved them. So now I, in my emails, love and light, which is the same, meaning, right? So So we want to find a way of communicating that so that it can be accepted by all people.
Yeah.
You have any comment about that?
I think there's so much in there. I think, for me in the chapter 2 of Soul Trader, where it's all about our customers, who are they? What language are they speaking? I mean, I remember when I trained, for example, as a coach, and so many coaches and their websites and coaches coaching this. My clients, they don't care I'm a coach. They care that they've been made redundant. They care that they're trying to make their business work. They care that they need to motivate their staff and so on. So I think there's something about speaking. It's a dance, actually. I need to be authentic enough to be me, that I am doing my work, but where I'm hearing where they're at, because otherwise I can just be caught up in a thing here that isn't true to our clients. So I also have a saying that it might sound odd, that mind on the money, heart on the customer. So there is this balance. There is a balance to be made here between head and heart. So we do need to be able to be aware enough of, okay, the pragmatic, some of the people will be, just like you said there, they'll be very mind orientated. Fine. We might need to be mind orientated first of all. And then when they come through the door, it's a dance. I think it really is that dance of being authentic enough you, but really listening to them and speaking their language, because otherwise I think we get caught up in our own perception of who they are and what they want them to be. So it is this being in step with them and that dance. And then over time, what we find is that people will be drawn in. Oh, love and light, that's intriguing. And they'll then often open up, isn't it, and be curious about where it is that you're coming from. Because some of this stuff can be, I remember when I started, quite daunting, all this stuff about the heart and so on. This is where the courage bit comes into it. When I first trained as a coach, 20 years ago, and I was talking about, trust, energy, flow, this and that and that. For many of the people who I've been working with, that might have been seem daunting. I had to trust enough that I was coming from that space, but also be able to speak in their language, so they could see that I had something unique that I was bringing to the table, but I was still able to speak very much in their language and be relevant to them in their world. And that's important, because then you can walk alongside them to help them in the world that they're in.
Yes, and Rasheed Ogunlaru, I think you're making an important point. And one of the things that I say to all, when I work with people about business, I say all business is solving problems. Okay, and so many healers, they go into it like, I'm a Reiki healer, or I'm a coach, or I'm an angel, whatever, and it's like they don't care. It's like, what problem can you help me solve my problem? That's all they really want to know, right?
Right.
Sometimes people will say, well, what are your qualifications? I'm like, go look at my website. You can,
Yeah.
I've published 10 books. I'm the host of the Natural Healing Show. Go look it up. I've done this for 30 years, but here's how I can help you. And the example that I give all the time is the tire store, right? There's a reason there's tire stores. Tires don't last forever. And when they wear out, somebody has to go. I go to a tire store here in Atlanta, and they go, okay, you have a 2018 Prius, here are your choices. These are the kind of tires, the bronze, platinum, and whatever, the best tires. And this is how much you drive. So all business is solving problems.
This is so important, Catherine. Your point here is so profound, because it's often where lots of healers may struggle. In that thing about being clear, we've also got to be clear about our story. A few times here today, you've touched on your magical story. Our story is really relevant and very, very compelling, because it's our credibility. Because people, when they first walk through the door, or when people are watching this, are thinking, who is this guy? Who is he? What's he done? Does he know what he's talking about? That's the first thing we're thinking about. So we've got to be able to be clear about, okay, this is who I am. This is what I do. This is my track record. And some of that will be relevant to our healing background, but some of it, all the other things you've done in the past will also be very relevant. So ensure that we're there telling that story, because that credibility, it's almost in their mind. They think, oh yeah, tick. Oh, they know what they're talking about. Oh, they've got this number of years experience in healing. Oh, and they've worked with people like me from the corporate background, so they feel safe. If there isn't that alignment, they're not going to come to you. So you've got to be comfortable telling that story of who you are. Many people shy away from it. Don't be afraid of your story. It's profound, and your story is unique to you. It is powerful. It is profound.
And with that, let's take another break and listen to a message from one of our commercial sponsors here at UK Health Radio, and we'll be right back with Rasheed Ogunlaru, coach, speaker, and author. So Rasheed Ogunlaru, you and I have been doing our work for decades. I know I've been doing this for 30 years in natural healing. And
Mm,
yet many of our audience members, they may have taken their first Reiki certification or they studied something else.
mm.
What are the essentials of a two-page business plan?
Mm, yeah. So in the two-page business plan, so it's funny because this bit's making me smile and laugh, and it's making me smile and laugh because I talked before about that there's both head and heart in play. And if you think about our conversation, it's been a dance of both. The job of the head is to plan, to prepare, to keep us safe and keep us organized. And the purpose of the two-page business plan is that the mind wants a plan. It wants to know where you're going, and it will keep knocking at the door, hang on a minute, or tripping you up if it doesn't have a plan. It's a bit like if you've ever been away on a holiday somewhere, you want a map. And it's really funny that you might be going somewhere you've never been before. There's something about the reassurance of the map. You may never look at it or barely look at it, but the mind feels reassured because you've got the map. It's the same in business. So the idea of the two-page business plan is that, particularly for many of us who are healers and so on, you may not need a multi-page business plan because it might be essentially you, your tools, your oils, your whatever, your intuitive, your cards, whatever it is you work with as a healer or whatever, those things that you have, handful of things, your website and so on. So it might not, you might need one of those big, you don't need one of those big plans about where the funding is going to come from like you. It might be that we're self-funded. So page one of the two-page business plan starts off with some things we touched on before. My mission, my story, my mission, my passion, why I'm here. Then it goes into what my different services, we list what the different products or the services are. And then page one is all about the goals. And they're under three pillars of business. When I learned this many years ago, it was really useful for me. Finance, marketing, and operations. Everything falls onto those three pillars. So what your financial goals, it might be okay to turn over 20,000 by the end of this year, 25,000 by the end of the year, 30,000 by this year, 50, so your financial goals. Your marketing related goals. Okay, this number of clients, having the website up with the store by this date. What are your goals? Your financial goals, your marketing goals, your operational goals. Page one is very much about the goals and key performance indicators. How would you know on track? Maybe it's like, okay, 1 in every 2 people that I go for a meeting will hire me as their client. Your key performance indicators. So page one is all about the goals. Page 2 starts off with our SWOT analysis, strengths, weakness, opportunities, and threats. And then crucially, the rest of the page, and this is all in the book, and you can get the free resource of the two-page business plan on my soul-trader.biz, B-I-Z, website, which is a largely free resource, lots of free resources. Now, that second half of page 2 is an action plan under the same headings: finance, marketing, operations. So it might be, okay, operations, write my two-page business plan by this date, do this by this date, and it becomes a living document. And my tip for people is, start every week, read it, decide when in the week, and have your 10-minute review, read it, update it, keep it there, and it makes your head feel focused. So you've got that focus, the focus, because it's about, you said something before, Catherine, that was very powerful. And in this business, we've got to be able to be, as a healer, you've got to be actually both compassionate and dispassionate. Sometimes you've got to be really tough with the client in order that they can take care of their health, because otherwise they're going to die, they're going to have they're going to have a heart attack, their feet aren't going to, they're going to have major problems with their well-being, okay? So we need to be dispassionate and compassionate at the same time. Same thing with ourselves in our business. That will give us the muscle that we need to be able to show up deeply compassionately, but also compassionately. So you've got the very, very clear business plan. Okay, this is what I'm doing. And then you're free to operate from your heart. It's a bit like going shopping when you've got a shopping list. And when you really know it, it might just stay in your pocket or in your purse because you know what it is that you're wanting. But you've got it should you need it as a backup.
Great information. And one of the things that I talk to people about when they're trying to start a holistic healing business is you decide how many hours a week you want to work, whether it's 40 hours or 30 hours or 20 hours. So let's say, just for the heck of it, you want to work 20 hours a week. Well, whatever hour, let's say you're working 10 client hours a week. Well, those other 10 hours, you need to be working on your business, right? And you give a big thumbs up. And you have to work on your business. You have to realize that your business is an actual thing. It's an energetic creation by.
You're so right. Catherine, what you're saying here is very powerful. The longest chapter in the Soul Trader book is the one, ironically, on creativity. And it really essentially is about a number of things. It starts off with the energetics of knowing what you're like at your best, what times of the day you're at your best. And talking about things like life balance, my tip for people is putting the you time, the family time, and the downtime in first, otherwise it'll never happen. You talk profoundly about how you knew very early on the peace and so on, and not working crazy hours was important for you from day one. So I think as a song trader, if we can be very clear, this is the time that's for me, family, loved ones, because many healers also, you might be a carer, you might be this, you might be that, putting that time in first and then being clear, how many hours do I want to work? What clients do I want to work with? What blend of work do I want to work with? And it will become clearer also over a period of time. Knowing what you do, like how you work best. You work best at home, out and about. You can begin to become creative about how you build your business, but it's about a blend of space, headspace, time and space, energetic space, well-being space, structure, because you might need a timetable to start off with. Structure, it might be, okay, Mondays I'm going to do this, afternoons I'm going to do that, Tuesday I'm going to do this. And serendipity, trusting the heart. Because I meet many people who the structure piece is all over the place. I often say, I've got to be the most organized person in any room. When I'm coaching, I've got to be the most organized. It's the same thing in business. As you say, your business is your business. Catherine, you wouldn't have achieved the magical success you've done in your business, because lots of people might look at, oh, that's great. But make no doubt, this work, but it's the work of the heart, and it's joyful work, right? It's blissful work, but it's work nonetheless. I love this, but it's about me knowing that I could coach any time of the day. I could do talks like this standing on my head in my sleep, but I could write. But business plans, or if I've got a proposal, I can only do that. I know myself to know that I can only do that probably between 5 a.m. and 8:30 a.m. because that's the time when I can do that logical work. So get to know yourself, really know yourself, so you can work to understand how you work best and how you can get the best out of others. It's really important for that productivity, that creativity, that money, that manifestation piece. It's really important to be aware of that. It's really important.
Yes. And while we're talking about this, one of the things that I point out to my clients is that there's 3 parts to every business, okay? Whether it's your healing business or the tire store. So the 3 parts are sales and marketing. And sales and marketing is where you explain to people, how I can help you. Your tires wear out. We have tires. I can help you figure out what kind of tires you need. The second is production. So this is a huge mistake that I see a lot of people making in holistic healing is they study Reiki, they study yoga, they study some holistic therapy, and they think just because they know how to do this thing, they'll be able to have a business. So that's your production, right? That's when you're making your business, your widgets. That's when you're, doing your massage work. The third part of every business is administration. And I was working with another healer recently, and one of her big mistakes was she merged her bank accounts. She only had one bank account. She had put all her money in her personal account. I said, you need to have a business bank account and a personal bank account. And you're nodding your head, right? Because I said, otherwise there's no clarity, right?
Yeah. And I think on that, so being clear who we are, what we are, where we are, what our strengths are, what our weaknesses are. So when we're going out and we're doing the bit about the cooperation, we can find people who can help us. Like you talked about the great finance people, the great people, or the marketing people, or whatever it is that we need. And when we're able to be creative, you know what? I remember that there's so many things that you're saying that really resonate with me. When I started, I'd been a struggling singer, so I had very little money. I'd spent a lot of money, like lots of people probably listening to this. I'd spent a lot of my money on my training and so on. I remember doing my training, thinking, oh my God, am I ever going to make the money back? Trust me, I made the money. Just many multiple times, but it took me some time. But it was about me being clear. Where am I strong? Where am I weaker? Going out there, learning from peers, learning from others, learning a lot about business. I attended pretty much every 3 thing going, so I could learn about finance, I could learn about operations, I could learn about those things, and not being afraid of that, and meeting other people, other peers who can help you with things in your field. People have been there for a long time, longer than you. They'll take you under their wing and so on. Many people, this is where the conversations bit comes in, Catherine, because many healers and many people in business, they end up being afraid to have the conversation, but it's only through the conversations that you're going to get the customers. So not being afraid to go out there, network, meet people, chat to people, share, magic will happen then. You know, I run lots of webinars. People don't turn their cameras. They don't say anything. There's a very top coach in the UK. I interviewed her a while ago. She was one of the first big coaches in the UK. Her name's Fiona Harold. I remember interviewing her a number of, I think last year, and she said something magical. And she said, you can't be a success and a secret. And I love that. You can't be a success and a secret. Spot on. So we've got to get in the habit of going out there, sharing our story authentically. It doesn't mean we need to be a loudmouth, but it means we need to be authentic and saying it. It might even be with that quiet power that people are also drawn to us. It doesn't mean you've got to be, hey, look at me, but nonetheless, we do need to be there. We need to be in the room. We need to be unafraid to share our story.
Wonderful. Now, Rasheed Ogunlaru, when you coach healers, what are some of the top reasons that you think people fail when they try and create a holistic healing business?
I think they often fail for the same reason. I think, funny enough, the good news here is I think the reasons why people fail in the business are pretty much the same universal, whatever type of business they are. So again, whether it's the tire business or whether it is the therapy business, lack of self-confidence, lack of belief, lack of focus, lack of clarity. You know, the funny thing is here, because there's two businesses, there's whatever you're doing, and then there's you. But first of all, you've got to take care of you. It's a bit like in the healing business, we've got to take care of our self-care, and we've got to believe in ourselves. I have a saying, and maybe it's lovely as we're heading toward the last stage of it. This is quite a recent quote of mine. The relationship you must have with yourself is ally, ambassador, beloved, and best friend. The relationship you should have with yourself is ally, being on your side, ambassador, putting yourself out there, beloved, caring for yourself, showing up with love, and best friend. So you're there even when nobody else is. So I think the reasons why people fail is often that they fail, you know, it's that classic ones, failing to plan, failing to learn about the business, failing to test things out, not listening to customers or potentially customers. So if you get the clarity bit right, and if you get really understand your market and your marketplace right, and there's an alignment, then the other things that you can build. But you do need to have the courage of being authentically yourself. You do need to be creative. You do need to be compassionate, and you do need that cooperation. You need to be prepared to change, because things will change multiple times. Since we've been in business, the world's changed. There's no social media. When we started, very few people had websites. It's all changed, and we've got to be prepared to dance that dance and change with it. But there is something magical. We have an advantage as healers and therapists. I genuinely believe that we do, because there's something about that energy that you work with. I mean, you know, who can say why it is, but we know that energy has a profound power. Everything is energy. And if you're working with energy through your work as a healer, then you've got to trust that business is also a manifestation of energy. I have a saying, and it's really important maybe for people to listen to, especially if people are struggling in their business, and I've been there at certain points. You've got to remember that creativity gives birth to money. Money does not give birth to creativity. So trust your energy, your flow, all of these gifts that you have. Money is just the thing that people just transfer with it. You've got to be aware of it, and you've got to be aware of your natural talents. We all just have these different talents and we exchange it, but know your worth, show up with care, and focus on what you're doing. Don't get distracted by this person, that person. And sometimes, another saying, sometimes all the tools and techniques, all of the things that the gurus say, the marketing books, this book, even what Rasheed Ogunlaru says, sometimes it will fail you. Then at last you must follow your heart. There will be time when all the tools and techniques, trust your heart, trust it, it will serve you, but you've got to trust it. Trust it, trust it. It won't let you down. Trust it.
I really appreciate what you're saying, Rasheed Ogunlaru. And I interview all these fabulous healers and coaches like yourself here on the Natural Healing Show. But what I really actually do is I tune in and I follow my own guidance about what I'm here to do, right?
That's the secret of your success. Catherine, that's the secret of your success. It's because sometimes, you know, I have a saying, I'm working on the follow-up. I've got lots of sayings. They just come to me. Well, two sayings I want to share with everyone. If you listen quietly enough, life will whisper its secrets to you. That's what's happened to me in my life. If you listen quietly, life will whisper its secrets to you. And many of your listeners know this. They may have been like you on their own journey where there's been pain, healing. Maybe that's why they come to healing, because there's a breakdown and then a breakthrough. We've got to trust this stuff. We've got to absolutely trust this stuff. This stuff is profound. I meet so many healers who the last piece of the puzzle isn't done. Once you've done your healing, it's our job to show up in the world. We're just being paid for it. That's all. But it's not for me to. I'm very, very clear that I have a job to do. My job is to show up, and it's a blessing. So when I'm invited to do shows like your show, whatever it might well be, it's the most amazing blessing. And my job is just to show up. And sometimes, and I'd say to everyone here, don't worry if sometimes you're. If people often say fight the fear and do it anyway. I have a different take. Embrace it, befriend it. What's the fear telling you? Use it. Use it to your advantage. What's it telling you? And I have another saying, beware trying to iron out all the quirks, the doubts, and so on. Those are the things that will give you compassion. Those are the things that will give you heart. Those are the things that your customers will resonate with. It's why they will hire you and not the next person. If you're authentic, people will come to you. If you're not authentic, they'll go to someone else. And you know, life will. The important thing for any healer to know is that, you know, the money and so on sustains us, but it's life itself that nourishes us. Trust, and then you will be nourished by life itself. So I don't need that person to pay. Somebody else will. But we've got to trust these things and know that it might be like your journey, Catherine. Sometimes we've got to bear in mind there are some myths about business that it can happen overnight. It will take work, like anything. It takes work. It takes 9 months for a baby to be. It takes work. It takes effort. Be in there for the right reasons. Work on it. Help other people, and magic will happen. Show up, and magic will happen. Learn, listen, learn, and be yourself.
You've been listening to the Natural Healing Show for UK Health Radio. I'm your host, Catherine Carrigan, medical intuitive healer, Amazon #1 bestselling author. You can find out more about me and my work at catherinecarrigan.com and unlimitedenergynow.com. While you're there, definitely sign up for my newsletter so you can learn even more about how you can heal yourself naturally. We've been listening today to the one and only Rasheed Ogunlaru, author of Soul Trader. You can find out more about Rasheed Ogunlaru and his wonderful work at his website, rasuru.com. That's RASARUU.com. And remember, in my humble opinion, not that I know anything, the world needs more healers. Get out there, have the courage to be who you are and to help people heal naturally. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next time.